We're going to get into our community development segment, and today we want to take a listen to when the president visited us last night in our homes again. It's the 29th time that he's paid a visit to our homes, and this time to talk on the updates on COVID as well as some IMF issues and all of that. All right, so we're going to take a look at that. Don't forget that the show is interactive, so if you happen to be watching on social media, kindly use the hashtag BreakfastDaily for us to hear what you're thinking. The WhatsApp line is 0204 4470.
The periodic cleansing, disinfection, and fumigation of markets. Never again should our markets be breeding grounds for rodents. There are other ways in which this nightmare has brought some good dividends that must be acknowledged. It has led to the strengthening of our disease surveillance system, and this has been manifested in recent months by our ability to deal in a very rapid and aggressive way with outbreaks of frightening diseases like Marburg, Lassa fever, monkeypox, before they could turn into serious public health catastrophes. The pandemic also exposed some of the painful deficiencies we have and forced us to take some brave and necessary decisions, like the expansion of our network of health facilities under Agenda 111. I doubt very much that but for the pandemic, the network of health laboratories with capacity to do PCR testing in our country would have expanded exponentially from the initial 2 to 67 laboratories nationwide. And fellow Ghanaians, we have begun the process of manufacturing our own vaccines with the establishment of the National Vaccine Institute. The painful lesson from the pandemic about the access to vaccines certainly concentrated our minds. And we must be proud that we did not bow our heads in defeat, but used the crisis to achieve such a positive outcome. We now have in place a vaccine institute and 2 vaccine manufacturing plants. I commissioned that of Atlantic Life Sciences Limited last year, and a few weeks ago, I performed the salt-cutting ceremony of that of DEK Vaccines Limited. There's no question but that Ghana came out of this global catastrophe much better than many other countries, if we consider the rate of infection, hospitalization, and death. We must recognize that this happened because we worked at it in a focused and competent manner. We refused to be swayed by the populist noises, conspiracy theory peddlers, false and uninformed analysts, but rather we relied firmly on the science and data-driven information for guidance. Contrary to what some foreign experts claimed, we do have a decentralized, resilient public health system which reaches every corner of our country with highly competent and dedicated health workers. A public health system of which we can be justly proud. When it was most needed, the health sector and religious and traditional leaders demonstrated admirable leadership. The private sector rose to the occasion and displayed innovation and dynamism. We managed a strong community engagement and communication strategy, which carried the entire population along and was admired and praised by Ghanaians and the outside world. Among ministries, departments, and agencies, there was strong and palpable multi-sector collaboration. It also certainly helped that we found the resources from the government, partners, individuals, corporate entities, and the public to support health workers and procurement of required materials. Fighting COVID has been a very expensive undertaking, characterized as it was by lockdowns, closed borders, minimal economic activity, and the consequential steep decline in revenues. The testing for the millions who went to public laboratories, the quarantine of arrivals from outside the country, hospital admissions, treatments and feeding for all patients were publicly funded and cost vast sums of money. The vaccination program was expensive, very expensive. Even though we received some donated vaccines, we purchased a lot with our own resources. And the multiple countrywide vaccination campaigns cost a lot of money. The fumigation, cleansing, and disinfection of markets, schools, offices, and other public spaces also cost a lot of money. Free water was provided, and the cost of electricity subsidized. 54,000 additional health workers were hired, and all health workers obtained a tax rebate. Fellow Ghanaians, keeping us all informed about this most unpredictable virus was expensive. A lot of money was spent on public education, public information, risk communication, public and community engagements, and keeping us all abreast with the relevant information. We must thank the Ministry of Information and its agencies and the National Commission for Civic Education for their exceptional work. It took courage, and I'm particularly happy that we reopened schools, colleges, and universities at the time we did, in spite of the fears of some parents and the condemnation of our critics. In some countries, millions of girls and boys did not return when schools eventually reopened after they had been kept shut for over a year. The logistics for keeping the schools open were huge and costly. But I am delighted that no Ghanaian child was left behind. Let me make it clear that COVID expenditures, essentially unplanned, have been subject at my instigation to audit by the Auditor General and are going through parliamentary processes. We all deserve to be reassured that the crisis was not used as a cover for corrupt practices. The COVID health recovery levy that was introduced to help fill some of the expenditure holes might not be the most popular tax, but I entreat all of you to bear with us. The COVID Trust Fund has performed an invaluable service, and with these developments has reached the end of its mandate. I thank the trustees as well as all donors and contributors to the fund. It is likely, God willing, that this will be the last in the series of fellow Ghanaian speeches on COVID. And as your president, I have a truly long list of people and institutions I must take this opportunity to thank. I thank firstly all of you, my compatriots, my fellow Ghanaians, for your patience, understanding, and cooperation. Health workers and the scientific community. I thank the leaders of the faith-based groups, the Christian Council, the Catholic Bishops' Conference, the Ghana Charismatic and Pentecostal Council, the Chief Imam and the Muslim leaders for their strong involvement, powerful prayers and support, their help, especially in feeding the vulnerable during the lockdown periods, and through the Church of Pentecost in providing accommodation for an isolation and treatment center. I thank the Council of State and our traditional leaders, the national and regional houses of chiefs, for their support and help in community sensitization. I thank the political and business leaders, development partnerships, NGOs and civil society, the sports, hospitality, entertainment, creative and tourism industries, our security services, police, military, immigration, teachers, pupils, students, parents, and guidance. I thank the journalists and the entire media. A few weeks ago, I gave national honors to most of the frontline workers who had been in the trenches, as it were, in the COVID battle. A total of 20,110 people were given national honors. They were well-deserved. But I know that some might have been left out, not out of any malice. We continue to recognize those who come to our attention. I must also make special mention of the environmental health personnel of the Ministry of Local Government. They played a key role in the burials of COVID-related deaths. The private funeral homes deserve honorable mention. They set the pace for how funerals should be conducted within the COVID protocol restrictions and with cultural sensitivity. In paying tribute to the health workers, I should address our psychologists and psychiatrists and express my gratitude for their work. COVID exacted an extreme emotional turbulence on the population, and no one can predict how long the effects on our mental health will last, and their work continues even after the end of the emergency. I believe it would be appropriate to make also a special mention of the Ministry of Health and its implementing and regulatory agencies, the Christian Health Association of Ghana, the military and police health services, quasi-government private health care providers, and the Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, which has established itself as a world-class institution able to hold its own on the international scene. On behalf of the people of Ghana, I express eternal gratitude to the police, the immigration, and the military, and the 2 IGPs, 2 CDSs, and Controller General that have served during the period. I pay homage to the pharmaceutical and textile industries and to the many corporate bodies that made generous donations and rallied to the call for enhanced domestic production of medical supplies. The Ghana Airport Company must be mentioned for the hard work of its staff. The Ghana Education Service and the Director General that saw us through the school closures and reopenings. Thank you. And thank you to its sister body, the Ghana Health Service and its dynamic Director General, both of them have gave such impressive accounts of themselves during this crisis. It would be greatly remiss of me not to place on record my appreciation to the National Ambulance Service and its workers. They worked well, and we are proud of them. I acknowledge the fact that digital technologies and drones help very much in getting vaccines and medications to hard-to-reach areas. And I'm glad they have become an integral part of our health delivery system. If we were still looking for any proof, we found that the high use of mobile phones and the digitalization agenda helped in the surveillance process, particularly with contact tracing and patient follow-up. I'm indebted to the ministers of state, officials of the presidency led by the chief of staff, the parliament and the judiciary, and all the members of the brilliant COVID-19 task force. I must make special mention of the Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, who was my reliable source of support in the darkest and most trying moments. And to the many who advised me publicly and privately, supported and prayed for me, I say thank you. The emergency is over. Unfortunately, the consequences are very much still with us, especially in terms of the economic devastation it has left in its trail. It will be recalled that I said right at the onset of the pandemic that we would do whatever it took to protect the lives of the Ghanaian people. In the now often quoted statement, I said, and I quote, "We know what to do to bring the economy back to life, but what we do not know is how to bring people back to life," unquote. The clear implication is that we would protect lives even if it was at the risk of harming the economy. I knew that the pandemic and the measures we were taking to keep us alive would have a devastating effect on the economy. But I believe I had the support of the Ghanaian people to concentrate on protecting lives at any cost. But I do not think anyone, anywhere, imagined the effect would be so widespread, so destructive, and so deep. I owe it to you, my compatriots, and to myself, to go to any length to bring the economy to the rude health it was in before the onset of the pandemic. When things came to the state, where I concluded we had to go to the International Monetary Fund to access a facility for budgetary support, I gave a directive to the Minister of Finance to start the process. It was a painful decision for me to take, because going to the IMF was not part of the economic transformation agenda I'd been pursuing, especially as my government had gone the extra mile to bring to a successful end the IMF program we inherited from the previous government. But who would have imagined that President Akufo-Addo would order the closure of airports, offices, factories, or schools? We were in extraordinary times, and we took extraordinary measures. And when faced with the realities of the economic crisis last year, I accepted the challenge that the economy required a similar attitude, including the sacrifices many of us have made in recent times. Luckily, the International Monetary Fund has been most supportive, and we have ended up with having our program approved in record time, culminating in the formal approval by the IMF board on 17th May. As I'm sure we have all heard by now, the details of the program have been explained by officials of the fund and by our Minister for Finance and the Governor of the Bank of Ghana. The first tranche of $600 million United States dollars has been credited to our national account out of the $3 billion United States dollars that we have negotiated to receive within a period of 36 months. Fellow Ghanaians, access to the IMF facility will not spell the immediate end of the difficulties we are in presently. But the fact that we've been able to negotiate such a deal sends a positive message to our trading partners, creditors, and investors. A positive message that will be underpinned by the discipline, hard work, and enterprise with which we execute the program. It should lead to the restoration of confidence and the reopening of avenues that have been closed to us this past year and a half. It should also lead to the resumption of many of the infrastructural projects that have stalled. Fellow Ghanaians, we got ourselves out of a pandemic in which there were no precedents on which to rely, and where even the experts admitted they had no clear-cut solutions. We did it by being resolute, being focused, and working very hard, and by accepting that we had to stick together. With a similar frame of mind and attitude, we shall overcome the economic difficulties as well, sooner rather than later. I have no doubts at all in my mind that we are on the right path, and we will soon start to see significant improvements in the economy and in the living standards of Ghanaians. Enuanom, emiadom, COVID yare no a to share yen so no. Na di o how be bre yen no. Yemi adaroma yetumi tu na se. Mesra mo moma yen nyina enda nyame ase. Yen koso enhwe yen ho so yi. Anyeme nyumodromo na COVID hela ni ba wono. Ni ke hawo ba nyuma ejowo wonya wo faneshi. Wo ha ofe woda nyumoshi ni wokwe wo hino ojugba. We are a God-fearing and a God-loving nation. And that is why throughout my presidency, I have consistently stressed that the battle is the Lord's. Thus, 3 years ago, when the pandemic first hit us, I asked for a national day of prayer and fasting for God's help to be observed on 25th March 2020. Now that the Lord has heard our prayers and seen us through this COVID trial, I would respectfully ask that next Friday, i.e. the 2nd of June, all Muslims should say a special prayer of gratitude for our nation's health. And that next Saturday and Sunday, i.e. the 3rd and 4th of June, all Christians should do the same. Fellow Ghanaians, we shall overcome our present economic difficulties. The battle is indeed the Lord's. Good night, and may God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. I thank you.
All right, so that's what happened last night when the president came to our homes to bring us a final update on the COVID protocols, where it is that we find ourselves, some of the decisions that government has taken to, for example, maintain the COVID levy, etc., and all of that. And then, of course, there were also some IMF updates as well. Frema, what are some of your takeaways from?
Well, I think that it's very important for the president to come, in a national address to let us know that officially as a country we are done with COVID-19. I think that is some relief there, But I must agree that, of course, the impact that COVID-19 has had on us is still there. And so having the COVID-19 health recovery levy still in force, well, makes some sense because we are still dealing with the effect of COVID-19 on the economy and on our individual lives. And going to IMF too, I think there was absolutely nothing at this point that we could do, although the president had stated, that there was no way Ghana would go to the IMF, all the issues. And so you remember all the battles that they had to go through, the what Ken Ofeata had to go through in taking us back to IMF, because the president believes that after taking us out, the 16th time we went there, he wasn't going to go back. But sometimes it is not what you wish for. I mean, nobody saw COVID-19 coming, and of course, we still have to deal with the effects of Russia-Ukraine war. That has also become a pandemic on all of us. But in all this, the president has also said that getting the IMF deal is not going to spell immediate coming out of all our challenges. And look, we are in a very difficult position now, considering all the economic challenges we have to go through, especially the fall of our Citi, the high inflation, the huge debt stock that we have to deal with. These are serious issues. But in all that, well, I would really want us to pay attention to the kind of reforms that we have to make with the coming of the IMF deal. And one thing that I would really want to see is a reduced government, because I think that too much of our money goes into salaries, paying people. Some of these people, you really can't tell exactly
what they do.
And this is something we can't hide away from. It's very unfortunate, but look, the number of ministries we have, the number of staffers we have, the number of deputies we have. Look, some of the ministries can be merged. Some of the deputies really don't have any business going to work every day. Look, if we say we want to make reforms and changes, look, we can't lie to ourselves. We are not that rich, so we don't have to act like rich people. You can't say that you can't pay people and still we are not prepared to look at the discipline aspect of it, you know, and really close our eyes and strip certain things. It's very, very important. Otherwise, the money will come. It will just still run through. Nothing major will change, and we'll still be back where we find ourselves, and we'll still go back to IMF for the 18th time.
I mean, I think that it's very clear that there are some hard decisions we have to take. I don't like the posturing that we have as a nation, where we talk big on what we want to do, but implementation is weak. Implementation is weak, if even it ever happens, you know. There are, from what you're saying, look, there are things that are low-hanging fruits. Okay, merge ministries. That's number one. President had a perfect opportunity when he was coming out with his new, with a reshuffle and a new appointment to merge.
Exactly.
He didn't do it. It raises questions about true commitment to what we say we want to do. If you say you want to do, in fact, don't even tell us. Just do.
Do it,
Do, implement. Then we
power.
know. Implement. That's why, you see, and this is one of the advantages of an executive power, with the amount of power our president has, is that many of these things can be done relatively easily.
Exactly.
You see. So when you don't do it, then it really begs the question, are we really serious about what we claim we want?
You know, so for instance, with former President Mahama saying that should he get the nod again, he's going to scrap ex gratia. It means we can scrap it. Look at how much goes into ex gratia alone. And my point is, look, these are public officers. Yes, agreed. They take their salaries. They are Ghanaians. They have decided to be here. Okay? Why do we have to carry huge sums of money? Because at the end of 4 years, your term has come to an end. Why? What's the why?
But it goes back, that thing goes back to the conversation about our culture again. There's, you know, within our culture, there's always things from 200, 300, 400 years ago that we've developed as a people that always, it has followed us into democratic governance, and we do things the same way.
You know, get it.
It's like, when you are going, you came to visit. When you are going, we will see you off with a gift. You know, it's all these little things that is like, it's in the culture. You know, so, and we don't have the money to do those kind of things.
Because why do we do that?
We need
the money we don't have, we just carry huge sums of it and give it to people. And then come back and pay huge taxes on sanitary pads. And then come back and drive on unmotorable roads, and then come back and we don't have access to good water.
And you buy vehicles for people to be able to drive on those roads. And then the rest of us are suffering, and the rest of us are struggling. And it's like the leaders that we've voted into power to come and make positive change for us so that our lives are better, are living on the largesse of the nation.
Exactly.
You know, profiting and enriching themselves and becoming, you know, more prosperous over the months that they are in office. Then the country itself, you know, you begin to ask a question. Look at the number of projects that have stalled.
Yes.
Look at the number of projects that are in limbo. They are midway. It's like the thing is,
we don't have money.
Because we don't
By
have
the
money.
end of the day, when it comes to ex gratia, we will have money.
will find money.
When it comes to paying government officials, we will have money.
And we will pay promptly.
Exactly. So really, what's the point? JUSAG is on strike. We have a whole lot of people demonstrating, protesting because the state doesn't have money. But there's too much wastage in the system.
Wastage
too
is
much.
Incredible. You know, and for those who are benefiting, they won't talk, or they will rather say that we are making too much noise. You understand? Because you're benefiting. Right? But the reality is that
contractors are there.
Yeah.
They have not been paid.
Yeah. Millions and millions of dollars not being paid. Look, I know some construction firms that have folded up, and as at this month, are sending workers back home. Do you understand? Because the contract was such that they had to bring some people from other countries with the money that was invested in the contract. You bring some people. Yeah. They've had to, because payments have not been made, they have to send some of the people back home because there's no work. It's not happening.
Look, I mean,
it's not happening.
As it stands now, this whole IMF relief package coming in is going to be a major decider for 2024 elections. Yeah. Because we've all opened our eyes. We want to see how government is going to put this money into good use. Yeah. And look, we've moved on from times where we feel people will just take rice and go and vote, people will take oil and go and vote. Yeah, people will take the rice and all, but people are also wise now. Look, we are 4 years wiser. Yeah. All right? And so we are also watching how all these things will unfold. Because some of these things really do not make sense, right? Because there are so many areas that if, as a lame person sitting back, you can tell that if we stop ABC, we could save some monies, right? But look, we always talk about pollution of our water bodies and all that. And really, what's the commitment, you know, from the people who have the power to stop illegal mining from doing so? It's just become a talk shop. We are always trying to find ways, and we are sending task forces, you know, out there to exercise and all that. But the problem persists. Why can't we do it? If chiefs are able to, with a statement, stop illegal mining, really, are we trying to say that government can't do this?
We are. So again, it raises questions about the true commitment to the cause that we claim we have, and we want to put an end to different things. You know, let's talk about this issue of, and I'm relating this Galamsey thing to the conversation about plastics, right? There are countries in Africa, nations in Africa, plastics have been banned. And I'm referring to Africa specifically because people say, oh, if it's the West, it's a different conversation. So let's not even talk about the West. Africa, there are countries that have banned and stopped. There's no plastic. You can't enter the country with plastics, right? We had this conversation. There was a prime opportunity. And guess what government goes to do? Government says that we will ban certain gauges of plastic, certain types of plastics.
What does that mean?
We are not serious. It's the same gimmickry. It's like we are pretending that we are doing something useful, yet there are people and interest groups and power players and other things who will by all means find a way of maintaining the status quo and will still be here. So anyway, the president having spoken, various things have been said. We are watching. We are keeping our eyes peeled. We're going to see what's going to happen in terms of the rollout of various things that, look, we need to have all the projects resume. Will they resume or not? Well, the president says that all the stalled projects will resume.
Well, let's hope so. And for me, I think that, look, it all starts with the president. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if we are in some form of challenges and difficulty, it is the president we hold responsible. Yeah. You know, and so if certain drastic measures are also to be taken, it starts from the president. It starts from the president. You get, I mean, what the president declares, who or decrees, who are you to say you will not follow it? You know, and so much depends on the president. Yeah. Okay, so. Look, David, why do we have Ministry of Roads and Highways, Transport Ministry, Railway Ministry? Really, what's the point? Yeah,
all these are under transport. They are all forms of transportation.
So why can't we
Even
have one?
Aviation is under transportation.
Exactly.
Why don't we just put everything under one? And you have, then it makes sense to have a number of deputies who are empowered to act properly, you know.
Exactly. So if we have that, and I mean, have two deputies, then it makes sense. Yes. Okay. Yes. We have agencies under them.
And we have agencies.
It is fine. Yes. Okay. But why do we have and then treat minister of this, minister of that, minister of that, and you realize that?
Because you know that Ghana Civil Aviation runs the entire aviation outfit, but they are under the Ministry of Aviation. Yeah. So the ministry know. What exactly is their use? Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
So it begs the
why
question.
Can't all of them be an umbrella ministry?
Be under Ministry of Transport, and then you have the chief
you know,
director
tourism ministry have GTA, have GTDC, but they all come under tourism ministry.
Yes.
Why don't we have that? Why do we have Ministry of Chieftaincy and Culture, and then tourism too is promoting culture in a certain way, who we are as a people?
There's always duplications of efforts, duplication of roles, and then
Ministry of Agric, and then Fisheries Ministry.
So that's why a lot of the time when we make a phone call, then they'll say, "Oh, it's not ours, it's them." They talk to these
people
begin
to shift blames and responsibilities.
Blame, and all of those things. Anyway,